So we're on Elvis Presley Boulevard, huh? Or is it T-Bird Street where we are?
We could be on T-Bird Street. We could be on Elvis Presley Boulevard. We can be wherever you want, Ken.
we're in Norm's garage. Norm, remind me of your last name?
It's McNary.
McNary. Norm McNary, that's it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So Norm was a big part of a bar scene called Spankys.
North Ridgeville, Ohio.
And tell me about that joint. Like, what was it?
Well, it started in 1977, and I started there in 1978 until 1983. And it was a club that the owner, Don Ladani, he had a club called Cyrus Erie that was in North Ridgeville, and that was like a teen club. And Alice Cooper played there, Bob Seger, I believe Alex Harvey, a lot, and then Left End from Youngstown played there, and there were a lot of local bands that played there. Well, when that closed, he opened up Spankys, built it from the ground up, and so I started there in 1978, and I was like, and I was a DJ before Spankys. I like, I'm gonna sit down, Ken.
Sure.
So
it's your joint.
I went to this school called Ohio School of Broadcast Technique in downtown Cleveland, and when I got out, then basically I got a job in this town called Bluefield, Virginia, and on this small country station. So I was there for a year, and then I came back home to Lorain, Ohio here, and I ended up getting a job at Spankys, like I said, in North Ridgeville, and it was like an 18 and over club, and what else can I tell you? Well, it was huge. Like on the weekends, like I was
like how big? How much capacity? 1,000, 1,200?
Like 1,700.
Wow.
Like on the weekends, and it got so crowded that the fire marshal, cut the line off, and then people would have to leave before they would let people in. So yeah, it really got crowded, and so I would do like maybe 35 minutes of playing records, and then the band would come out, maybe do 45 minutes to an hour, and we would rotate like that. But it was funny because when I first started, it was 78, so disco was big.
Mm-hmm.
So the owner, had me playing disco, and the bands were playing rock to like make everybody happy. And
except for you that was playing disco, music you did not like.
I didn't mind it or anything, but it was funny because so Easy Street, they're from Akron,
yeah,
and I got to be I'm still good friends with those guys. And Westside Steve.
Who are the main dudes in Easy Street?
Well, Westside Steve Simmons,
okay,
who plays at the Islands now. He was the lead singer. And then Bob Martin is the bass player, and those are the kind of like the founders of Easy Street, and so they were playing there in 78, 79, but that was like the disco sucks thing started.
Yeah.
and so Westside Steve, like when they would get up there, he'd start this like I'd end my songs, and Steve come up there and with the band, and before they started, he'd start this thing, disco sucks, disco sucks, and it'd be going back and forth and like that. So then people started giving me, like, certain people, like, hey man, don't play this shit, and can I say that in our
Sure.
And
I check off that not for kids box.
And so he would start that, and then people would say, hey, don't play that shit, and and disco sucks. And so then me and Steve talked, and I said, Steve, you have to, like, you got to quit doing that, man, because somebody's going to, like, you know, beat me up. And so then Steve went up there and said, yeah, you know, disco sucks, but Stormin' Norman's okay. He's okay, and so leave him alone. So, but yeah. Trying to think,
so what kind of music, before he shoved disco down your throat, what would you have played?
Would I have played?
Yeah.
Oh, I probably would have played, you know, what the bands were playing, you know, the rock from, you know, mid to late 70s at the time. I would probably be playing all that stuff.
Right. They were covering.
They were covering, you know, like.
Did Spankys have any original bands, or people that would they sneak in original tunes?
Yeah. Well, Easy Street, they always did. You know, they always got some original songs in there. Not a lot, but they would. You know, they came out with an album, I believe, 1980. So they.
That's the one with the girl leaning against the brick wall. Is that
no?
the
That's
Easy
not.
Street?
No,
okay.
But they. So
that would have been a good cover for Easy Street.
Yeah, so they would play some originals mixed in, but I would say more, you know, Fairweather. Mm-hmm. I believe they would do your Thursday or Sunday nights, and they did like a concert type thing where, you know, they did covers, but they did a lot of originals. And Paul Fairweather had that theatrics going
for the Peter Gabriel.
Right? And they did some Jeff Rotal, and you know, he had a thing where he came out with a TV set on his head, and so Fairweather did a lot of originals, and like I said, we had Artful Dodger did quite a few concerts out there.
Yeah.
Artful Dodger. That band, the Godz from Columbus, they did originals, and like I was telling you, it was a teen show on a Sunday afternoon for kids under 18, and all these kids showed up, and I believe the lead singer from the Godz was Eric Moore. Uh-huh. So this guy's sitting on a chair. On stage, all the other band is standing, but he's on a chair, and he has a bottle of whiskey, and he's smoking a joint. And there's like these little kids out in the crowd,
and parents probably.
And parents, and the North Ridgeville Police Department were standing there, but nothing. He didn't get busted. Oh yeah, what band? I think it was the Godz. Yeah.
Boy, oh boy. Those guys are trouble, weren't they?
The Godz were trouble. Because what happened with the Godz were, you know, they got there like at real early to do their sound check. And so like maybe 2 hours before they went on, they had, you know how those bands have a rider or whatever?
Yeah.
They want all these certain things.
Yeah.
So in this rider, I mean, it was huge, and everything was in there, but there was like one thing missing. Like I don't know, like a carton of chocolate milk or something, and so the Godz called up the manager, the bar manager, and hold on a second, get comfortable here, and they said, well, guess what? That chocolate milk is not in. It's not in here with this. And we're not going on. We're not going on unless we get this and maybe something else or whatever. And the bar manager was a real rowdy guy, and he basically said, "The hell with you guys, you're going on," you know that. So they got into a big riff and everything. But yeah, the Godz went on. There was like 100 things in the rider that they got, and the one thing they didn't get. They were upset, but they still went on. So so the Artful Dodger, the Godz, that was an original. Jonah Coslin and Breathless.
Yeah. They got signed. They were
And
on
they got
EMI.
signed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they played out there, and that band was like really, that band was tight. You know, did you ever see them or?
I saw Breathless at the Coliseum, if I'm not mistaken.
At the Coliseum?
Yeah.
Okay.
And back probably 82-ish,
Uh-huh.
somewhere
Oh, wow.
in there. And
Yeah.
so, and I've seen Jonah several times, since then. But, that era was more stadium or Coliseum. And venue shows. I wasn't old enough to go to bars yet.
Yeah.
And so my bar days started at about 1980.
1980. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Breathless. Yeah, they played out there quite a few times. Did a great show. And here was another band, American Noise. They played out there.
Excellent band.
And that band was excellent. The Balzer brothers were lead singer and lead guitar player. Tommy Rich was the drummer. And yeah, they did all originals. They did a couple covers. But yeah, I would say they were probably one of the best bands to play out there with Breathless, Easy Street. There was a guy from around Wheeling, West Virginia, the B.E. Taylor Band. They played out there a few times, and he ended up having some records on MCA.
Wow.
Yeah, he played out there. I'm trying to think of like local bands: Easy Street, Fairweather.
Wild Horses, I bet.
Wild Horses, yeah, they were out there like when the Funky Poodle was big.
I see Tommy Rich, or our version of where you're talking about is the Greenville, in Chagrin Falls, and so Steve Yoakum, he plays there, and Tommy plays drums for him.
Okay.
And I love Tommy's drumming. He's like our Keith Moon.
He is.
He's so cool, But all you guys about 5 to 10 years older, you hit the sweet spot of Cleveland and music and analog culture.
Yeah, it was a great. I mean, it was crazy because besides Spankys, you had the Cleveland Agora, Filthy McNasty's, the Flying Machine that was around Akron.
Mm-hmm.
And these guys were like playing every night of the week. Every night of the week, these guys were playing, and all these different bands. There was all that music going around, and yeah, it was just like a great time. I mean, it's just completely different now. I mean, there's hardly any local bands or places to play, and so yeah.
So let's see what's in that scene that you got. Who's playing at your club that day?
Let's see. Oh well, this is a scene from the October 28th to November 1st, 1978.
With Kiss on the cover.
With Kiss on the cover, yeah. Kiss TV film coming up there, and. Yeah, so here's our Spankys ad from.
Wow, you guys got this. You were paying big money for an ad on page 4.
Yeah, so you had like Fairweather doing their originals that night, and then the next night, this band played a few times out there from Toledo. They were called The Other Half, and they did like kind of theatrics and. Kind of like Frank Zappa-ish comedy type stuff, really good. Then the next night on Saturday you had Easy Street, and like it says, they were from Akron, a really tight, great band. Then after that you had a band called Hot, and I believe they were from Cleveland, and Rich Van Adder, who was their lead singer, ended up getting recruited by Easy Street. And then Easy Street had two lead singers, West Side Steve and Rich. Then after that, let's see. Then on a Wednesday, we had like a Lorraine County band called the Smith Brothers Band, and they may have been from Oberlin, and I think they were about the only Lorraine County band that played out there. But they were really good. They were really tight.
Like, what kind of tunes were these guys doing in the bars? What were cover tunes in 1978 in the bar?
Oh boy. Well, I know a lot of bands were doing like Cheap Trick, that Live at Budokan.
I want you to want me.
I want you to want me.
Okay, so shit ain't changed.
Yeah, geez, boy, man, you put me on the spot though. Like, I'm trying to think. A lot of bands started doing the Cars.
Just what I needed.
Just What I Needed. They started doing that. Man. But whatever was big in 78, 79, 80, these guys were playing it. And there was another band, Souvenir.
Souvenir, sure.
Souvenir played out there. George Eunice was like the lead singer, and I believe I can't remember the guitar player's name. He was from. He ended up being a Michael Stanley in the Resonators. Danny Powers.
Sure. Yeah.
He was in Souvenir, and Danny Hutton. He was the keyboard player in Souvenir, and they did. George could hit the high notes and everything, so they did heart songs, Barracuda and things like that. Souvenir, Lefty, they're from the Brook Park area, and they used to play, like on a Wednesday night, it was Drink and Drown.
So what, cheap drinks?
Cheap drinks.
And the up and coming band, you don't have to pay that much to?
Yeah.
What kind, do you remember anything that Lefty played?
Yeah, Lefty did Cars, but man, it's hard to...
I'm sure. And it all probably blurred into one when you were doing it night after night after night after
blurred
night.
Blurred into one.
Yeah.
And it was like you got to... the bands didn't change their sets up a lot, so you kind of like got it all in your memory of like, well, this set's going to have these songs, and this is going to be, they're going to play this, and this, and but it was interesting to be able to compare the bands and the different tunes they were playing.
Yeah. And even the crowds that they drew.
And the crowd, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Every band brings in its own different nuance. You'll still have your regulars that come in every night or whatever, but
right.
The icing on that cake is, the band's following.
The band's following.
Or who's horny that night or whatever.
Yeah. East Street had their own following. Fairweather, they're from...
Sure. They had a culty kind of...
They had a culty type audience, and they were from Lorraine County, so they had a big crowd that always would come out there on Thursdays to see them. But yeah, it was a good time. I did it from like 78 to 1983, and like I said, 1,700 people jammed in the place. Open on Christmas Day, open on Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve closed, Christmas Day open, New Year's Day open.
Yeah.
And there was just it was a good time. The music, like I said, is great. Every band was good too. There was no lame bands. There was no, they were all really professional, and it was a good time.
So care to share your craziest story from the bar era?
Well, it's not my craziest story.
Okay.
But
the craziest memory, shall we call it?
Let's give you a craziest memory.
Okay.
Okay, so I was like DJing, and there was this guy that would come out there, and he'd come up talking to me and everything like that, and somehow, I don't know, then he, you know, would go out into the crowd and try to pick up girls and
Get called asshole. No, that never happened to Pablo Picasso. Oh, I'm sorry. Couldn't resist that one.
And so anyway, he had to sing, oh yeah, so my stage name was Storm and Norman, and that was created, let's go back for a minute, you know, I used to flip hamburgers at this place called the Red Barn.
Oh yeah, sure.
Remember the Red Barn?
Sure.
So, and there was this older manager there, this old guy, and he remembered this baseball player for the Detroit Tigers.
Norm Cash.
Norm Cash. And they called him Storm and Norman.
Yeah, yeah.
So that guy's like, oh yeah, Norm Cash. He goes, you're Storm and Norman. That's who you are. So everybody started calling me that way before I DJ'd. That was my local
That was your nickname.
So, and now, Ken, I completely forgot the story. What were we talking about?
The wildest story
yeah,
that
the
happened.
wildest
So
story.
you were DJing, and some guy could pick up chicks, and
Some guy.
I interrupted you at that point. So
You brought me back here. So this guy would be like, oh yeah, you know, he'd go up to the chicks and me and Storm and Norman, like, you know, we're a corporation or whatever. We're like
a team.
we're like tight, and you know, and I worked with them and everything, and it's like, okay, dude. So what happened was this guy. Oh yeah, and then he brought a T-shirt out there one night. I don't know, it said rock and roll on it, and he said, well, let's promote this, like, let's throw it out into the crowd, and so I did it, and then I guess that's when the corporation started. And but this guy, he was hitting on these girls, and he was like really persistent, and then. So he followed them out into the parking lot, and he kept on bugging them. So they saw a couple guys that they knew that they were friends with, and he said, you got to get this guy, tell this guy to leave us alone, get off our back, quit following us. So these other two guys went up to this guy, my corporation partner, and so what happened was they were getting on this guy's case. I leave him alone. This is where I came into the picture. It's like 2:30 a.m. or 3 a.m. because the music ended at 2:30, and by the time the lights came on and everybody got out the door, it's 3 a.m.
Yeah.
I walked out. So basically these two guys were going to basically beat this guy's beep. And I walked out, and this guy who was going to get beat up, he goes, stop, don't come any closer to me. I'm a black belt. I'm a black belt. And he starts doing this. He's doing all these fake karate moves, and so they're starting to get to him closer. Then he goes, stop right now. I'm with the North Ridgeville Police Department, and if you touch me, you're going to jail, and you're in trouble. So at this point, I said, I'm going home. I walked away, got out my car, I drove home. I'm not sure what happened after that, but the next morning, and Storm and Norman, the big DJ, was living at home with his parents. The big star who was making big money, yeah, right. And I got up at, 12 p.m. or whatever time I got up, 1 p.m. And my mom's like, yeah, I saw the morning paper today. Did you know what happened at Spankys last night? And I go, no, what? No, Mom, what happened at Spankys last night? Well, this guy got arrested for impersonating a police officer. That's like, so the guy that says, stop, I'm with the North Ridgeville Police Department, got arrested for impersonating, because the real police, North Ridgeville police, came out, saw what was going on. They probably told him, hey, he said he was with you guys. And they said, he's not with us. He's not with us. So he got arrested. And that was, that was probably the funniest story. I'll give you one more.
Okay.
I don't know if these are entertaining or not.
Yeah, no.
Well, there was this guy, this girl came out to Spanky's all the time. So I kind of got to know her and stuff. And her brother started coming out there. Now this is like a true story. It doesn't sound true, but this guy's name was John Lester. And so he would come up, request some songs and just small talk and everything. One time I was out, the band's playing, so I'm on my break. This is great. I'm getting paid to like drink beer and hang out with people while the band's playing. And so the guy comes up to me, he goes, hey Norm, how you doing, and everything like that. And I go, good. And it's John Lester, and he goes, I want to introduce you to my cousin, Bill Lester, because he started coming out here, and he really likes this place, and he really likes the music that you're playing, and so I'm going to go get him and introduce you to him. I said, okay, that's cool. So he left, and he went into the men's bathroom, and I was just standing out there, and he came back, and it's the same guy. It's the same.
His sister's boyfriend?
No, John Lester.
Uh-huh.
It's John Lester. He comes out of the bathroom with sunglasses on. Okay? And he's dead serious. And he goes, Hi, are you Norm? And I go, yeah. He goes, I'm Bill Lester. I'm John's cousin. John told you about me? I've been wanting to meet you and everything. It's the same guy. It's the same guy.
Yeah.
And I'm Bill. But so I just played along with it. Like, oh, Bill, it's nice to meet you. Yeah, John was telling me that you really enjoyed the music and everything. And then he goes, okay, it was nice to meet you. I'm going to get John. And I just stood there. And then like 2 minutes later, John walks back out without the sunglasses. And now he's John Lester again. He's not Bill Lester. And I think it happened twice where he came up to me as Bill Lester, and I just played along with it, and
well, hopefully it worked with the ladies.
Well, see, if John pissed him off, he could always come back as Bill.
Yeah.
And be like a different persona, you know. So those are probably two of the, one time a guy threw an ashtray. This, and the place was huge. It was like I said, 1,700 people. So there was a guy one time that tried to start a fight with me because, I don't know, his girlfriend thought I was cool or whatever. And so he ended up trying to start a fight with me, and I said, man, we got to get this guy out of here. So the bouncers, I always had these giant bouncers that were my big buddies.
Sure.
I was like Gilligan, and they were my big buddies.
Yeah.
And so they basically tossed this guy out. And then a couple months later, I saw this guy with another guy sitting way on the other side of the room, and I was telling the bouncer, hey, there's that guy that kind of gave me a hard time, and they're like, well, you want us to throw him out? And I said, nah, he's leaving me alone, so let's let it ride. So I let it ride, and like a half hour later, Spankys had these block concrete walls with like pictures of rock stars painted on the wall.
Okay.
And so anyway, I hear this, like, I'm up there spinning the tunes, like, I hear something whiz by my head, and I turn around and boom, like they had those
Exploded.
plastic ashtrays. so it exploded on the wall. And so that guy whipped this ashtray at me from across the room, like at 60 miles an hour. And so yeah, then I had him thrown out after that. And then, well, since we're talking about like abusing the DJ, these tables, like I was up in the air probably like about
6 feet.
6 feet.
Yeah, yeah. The DJ riser.
The DJ riser.
Yeah. Now replaced by Ted Riser.
So what happened was I'm spinning the tunes, and there was tables down around the DJ booth. But all I know is like, boom, I get soaked. I get soaked with like a beer. And I mean, and somehow it missed it must have like flew up and projected up in the air, and it missed the turntables, but it all thankfully, and it all landed on me.
Well,
and it's like, oh man, I was ticked off. But I'm looking around at all the tables, because I figure I don't know how far a beer would fly, so I'm looking at all these tables down below, and they're all empty. There's nobody there, and so I never found out who threw the beer at me. It's like
it's a 45-year mystery.
It's that 45-year-old
mystery.
Year-old mystery. So yeah, the beer incidents, the ashtray.
Did you meet your wife there at least?
I did not meet my wife there.
Oh shoot!
No, I didn't meet my wife there. But I met a lot of interesting people, and like I said, with Easy Street, I'm still friends with those guys, and they do a reunion show. So I go to that.
That's the scene you think you were closest with, was Easy Street scene.
Probably Easy Street, I would say. The guy Walt Sobera, who
heard that name.
he went as Wally Lee back in the day, and his brother was Donnie Lee on keyboards from Lefty. I'm still in touch with those guys on Facebook.
Are they in that same group that we connected in? I think
yeah.
I've read the name that you just said. Yeah,
they're in a Northeast Ohio
music history
group. Yeah, and then Paul Fairweather. Sometimes he does shows at the Palace in Lorraine, but I've run just on the street and everything like that. I've run into him and said hi to him. Those are like kind of like the guys that I'm still connected with after 45. Yes, 78. Well, 78 to 83. So it ended 40
years ago.
40 years ago.
Isn't that scary? Because it does seem like that to you, doesn't it?
It's crazy how sometimes I can be right in my mind. I can be right back there, but then other times it's like, man, that was like a long time ago.
Yeah.
And so anyway, after the Storm and Norman era, then I basically went on, like a lot of the other guys in the bands, got a real job, ended up working for the post office. So that's kind of where I ended up. And but I always have like the Spanky, all the Spankys memories are like great memories, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm glad that I did it, and so.
Well, thank you for sharing it. And it's you're creating a snapshot of a scene that few people can create. So
yeah,
thank you very much for giving us this slab of Cleveland history, Cleveland music history.
Yeah, Ken, and just so everybody knows, like all these scene magazines, Ken puts these on his YouTube channel, and I just gave him a big box from 1975 to 79 of scene magazines that he's going to put on his YouTube channel. And what was it?
Cleveland Live Music.
Cleveland Live Music.
If you search for scene, there's probably about 35 to 40 of them now, and try to match up a recording from the week, that the issue covers, or for a concert. Sometimes I have to cheat and find a concert that's a month away that at least there's an ad in the magazine for. But usually I can cover my bases, and if not, we fake it pretty good.
So yeah, that's it.
Well, thank you very much, Norm. It was a pleasure to meet you.
Thanks, Ken. You too. Yeah.
It's wonderful how life works out sometimes.
This is great.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks.